When I work with clients to help them move past a toxic relationship and understand why they got in that toxic relationship in the first place, usually a question once we get past that is, Ashley, when can I begin to start dating? When should I start dating? When should I put myself out there? And I found that there's definitely a timeline to that because we can jump in too soon just as much as we can stand on the sidelines for too long. Let's talk about what that looks like in today's video. Hi friends, Ashley Berges here today, and today I want to talk about the proper length of time to be able to start dating again after you've exited that latest toxic relationship. Okay, there's not one hard and fast rule here. No one size fits all, right? There's not a specific time in stone where it's like you have to wait this many days or this many months before you can start dating again. But I think we really need to begin to take it slow, okay? Because we've gone through a traumatic experience. We've begun to learn more about ourselves and our choices. But it's like all of a sudden these epiphanies begin to arise. We begin to see situations in our own life. We begin to understand the family dynamic, perhaps why we chose that person in the first place. And maybe not just that person, but the 4 people before that had a lot of the same similarities as the latest. So what do? And I want to talk about each piece of this, and this is going to be a series of videos because there's lots of things that we have to lead up to before we begin to start dating again, because we want to make sure that we choose the right person, and the only way to choose the right person is to be where we need to be in our life, right? So that we're giving off that energy, being in the right place, expressing ourselves properly, being authentically us, right? Being truly who we are, and we're going to bring to us people who are also exactly there in their own life. And we can't fake this, right? We can't fake this. We can't fake being in the right place mentally, emotionally, physically. We can't fake that, right? This has to be genuine. And so we have to take our time and really get to know ourselves through this process and eventually begin to date. Because think about it, if we date too soon, it's just a wasting of our time and a wasting of their time, because we're going to find someone that's not necessarily in the place that we want to be at. We might find someone that's where we were maybe a couple years ago. Not that that's right or wrong, just not the right person for us. Okay, so what do we need to begin doing first off? And the first thing that I've realized is that in order to really understand ourselves, once we've gotten past the toxicity, once we've got past the stress and anxiety and all those types of feelings and emotions that kept us in turmoil, we're now able to really understand and see ourselves with clarity. And now we have the time to really focus on ourselves, right? And this is important. We have to take this time, and that's what usually most people do not do, right? Instead of taking the time to get to know themselves and really understanding and how am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Why do I feel? What makes me tick? We don't take any of that. We get through the toxic relationship. We see the problems of the other person. We make amends, and we go back out there again, and we go, why do I keep attracting these same types of people? Right? So the first thing we need to do is be able to understand what we stand for, right? This is critical. Who we are, and how do we do this best? Well, the best way to figure this out is not just, oh, let's think about it, let's sit and Indian style and try to think about this. No, it's more like, what do I value in my life? Okay, because in order to really have a compatibility, we have to find some of the similar things compatible, but we also have to have similar values, right? And I'm not saying that we can't see differently, have different opinions, but our basis of value has to be structured very similar, okay? So one of the best ways to understand this is to really start getting into your mindset, start looking at yourself, start connecting with yourself, start having just some sort of personal conversations of what is it that I value in my life? What's important to me? Okay, so for example, is family important to me? Is eventually having children something that's important to me? Why is family important to me? Why is marriage important to me? What does that mean to me? Okay, you got to take it a step further. It can't just be like, oh, I value family and I value marriage. Well, what do you value about marriage? What is it about a marriage that you want? How do you define that marriage? Okay, it's not just 2 people living together. How do you define it? How does it look? How do you connect with each other? What's the interaction on a daily basis, right? What's the value of that? Because when you're going out there and meeting someone, there has to be that similar basis of value, or you're 2 ships passing in the night, right? Or it's going to be a lot of confrontation and argumentation. I want you to also start thinking about values on how you live your life on a daily basis, right? Let me give you a good example of a value that's very important to me, and I'm not sure if it is to you, but it gives you an example. The example is independence, right? I value independence. Independence is one of the most important values that I have in my life. And what does independence mean to me, okay? Because that's pretty generic. Independence is independence of thought, independence of feeling, and independence of action, okay? That's a huge value to me. So what do you think about independent thought? I'm allowed to think for myself, right? Independent thought means that somebody's not going to tell me how to think or make fun of how I think, right? That's something that goes against my values altogether. That's a boundary, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. You know, independence of action. I'm allowed to do what I want to do. Now, I'm not going crazy or going partying, but I'm married, but I'm still allowed to work as much as I need to work. If I want to go to the gym or do what I want to do or see some friends, that's okay because I'm allowed to do that, right? Because I've created that independent action where it's not based on what other people want me to do. Okay, and I've had a successful marriage up to now going through that process, but those were conversations that we had in the beginning to discuss where we stood in the relationship. Independence of feelings. I'm allowed to feel a certain way. I'm allowed to express my feelings in a safe environment where I'm not ridiculed, where I'm not questioned, where I'm not gaslit by my feelings and how I'm speaking. And I'm not always talking about how I feel, right? Oh, I feel this way. But when I do express my feelings, I'm in an environment with people that maybe they agree or disagree, but they still respect the fact that I'm able to express my feelings, right? And it's not in an environment where I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. It's not in an environment where I feel like I have to hide my feelings, right? It's not in an environment where it's toxic, where when I bring up my feelings, I get accosted or ridiculed. And so that's a really good example of a value, right? Of a value that I live my life by. Now, when you think about it, I kind of explain the breaking point of that value. So how I live my life and what I expect in my relationships, right? People like, respecting how I feel, the thoughts, and my actions, right? And I do the same back for other people, correct? But when somebody jumps in and breaks that, i.e. makes fun of me, ridicules me, manipulates me using my feelings, gaslights me, right? Any of those types of things, that's where the boundary is. That's when you have to cut it off. That's when you have to show what's happening, pinpoint it, spotlight it, not in a horrible negative way, but hey, this is not acceptable. This isn't something that I'm going to accept in my life. And see, I feel that a lot of times when we're going through the toxic relationships, and I've worked with many clients, okay? And so I see it, we go through the shell shock, we go through the fear, we go through the walking on eggshells, we go through all this, and it's not until we come out the other side are we able to really focus on us, give ourselves the time to understand what makes us tick. And this is so important. So try to do this exercise at home. And if you want to work with me, I will help you walk through this together. But if you want to, start writing down. Get a journal. And I know some of you go, oh, journal, that's a horrible word. I can't stand that. I don't want a journal. I hate journaling. I get it. I understand it. But we got to jump the hump somehow, right? We got to jump the hump. So it's like doing the work to understand who you are. And it might take some of this journaling that people hate. But I need you to start writing down your values. What are some things that you live by on a daily basis? What are the values that you really believe in? What are the things that are highly important to you? What are the make it and break it things in your life? And see, independence is one of my major top values. And when I think about my other values, it's the things that I incorporate into my day-to-day life. It's the belief system that I have, those types of things. And all these are extremely important. Now, is it wrong when somebody doesn't have the same belief system? No. But does it make it easier in life when we have the same belief system to be able to live in a relationship that's not only positive, but it's kind of smooth sailing? And I'm not just saying that smooth sailing is always the best, but it is definitely better than a lot of drama, right? A lot of drama and anger based on people's differences at the core, right? So we're trying to find someone that might have similarities to us, but we have to figure out who we are before we go find that other person. So step one, figuring out your values, write them down. What are my 7 to 10 core values that are very important to me? What do they matter to me? How do I define them? Well, just like I went through the independence of thought, action, all that stuff. Look at that in your own life. Write that down, 7 to 10 of them. What matters? And in the next video, we're going to be talking more about understanding how to create the boundaries from them. I'm going to go really in depth on that, because once we have the values, now we're able to understand our boundaries. We're able to actually implement real boundaries, right? Because a lot of times people talk about boundaries, you got to have your boundaries, but what do boundaries mean? So we're going to talk about that too, because once we actually create this stability in our life, then it's time to begin, well, to put yourself out there. I hope this video has helped you. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all our subscribers. And also, in the comment section below, have you done this exercise? Going through this exercise, what did you learn about yourself? Is it something new that you've learned about yourself that can really help you to tap in to your identity, and better yet, to find someone eventually down the road that connects with you? Don't forget to live your true life.